Something Rick Warren once said really resonates with me. Don't use your people to build up your church. Use your church to build up people. I love that. Think about it. That's where the whole idea of an apprenticeship culture comes to pass. But what is apprenticeship anyway? I recently read a definition that made a lot of sense to me. It said an apprenticeship is a system of training a new generation of practitioners. It includes on-the-job training and often is accompanied with some study. So why would we want to apprentice people anyway? At the end of the day, the only way you're going to become scalable and lead the mission that God is calling your church to is if you raise up other people. And apprenticing people is how we do it. You know, one of the things, if we're going to create an apprenticeship culture, we must model the very thing we're asking other leaders to do. So, as staff at St. Benedict, what we do is we ask every staff member to have an apprentice, or maybe several, to be apprenticing into people, to be building into people. Not so that they end up taking their job per se, but because building into people is always the right thing to do. And so apprenticing people allows our base of leaders to grow. And that is so important. That is when you become scalable. One of the ways that we model that on Alpha is probably around week 8. We pull the team aside and we ask them who at their table do they feel would make good table team. It's a great question, but if we're going to ask that question, we better give them some context with which they can filter their perspectives. And so that's when we share with them FACT. We're looking for people who are faithful, available, contagious, and teachable. Now, with that said, if somebody's coming back on team as a helper, do we need them to be faithful to the teachings of the Catholic Church to the fullest degree? Not necessarily. I've actually brought atheists back on team. Why? Because my hope is if they come back on team, through the team experience, I'll be able to bring them to Christ. But I need them to be faithful to the concept and the idea and the culture of Alpha. And if they can say yes to that, I can probably bring them back as a helper. Now, with that said, if I'm bringing them on as a co-host or a host, I probably need some level of faith because then they're seen as leaders, not just helpers. And we want leaders to model the very values that we're trying to embody as a church. And so that's part of the way and one of the ways we translate this filter to other people so they know what we're looking for when we're looking for possible leaders. What's so fun about that is when people work with us 10 weeks in ministry on Alpha, what ends up happening is we see what they're made of. Are they showing up on time? Are they committed? Are they enthusiastic? Do they care for others? Those are all qualities and character traits we're looking for in people that we want to grow as leaders. And we find that and we experience that shoulder to shoulder as we're apprenticing these people. You know what we also do is we also have a leadership summit 3 times a year where we pour in to our ministry directors, and one of the things that we do when we do that is we ask them to have an apprentice. Bring someone with you whom you believe has the capacity to influence and build up others and build up your ministry and your church. Again, don't use people to build up your ministry. Use your ministry to build up people. And that's what we try to do. You know what's really neat, and I'll tell you a personal story about my friend Bill. Bill came to the church about 5 years ago, and I could tell right away he was a special person. I could tell that if he came to Christ and was filled with the Spirit and would allow himself to lean into his gifts, he could have a big influence for Christ. And so we brought him into the Alpha team. When he did Alpha, he probably only went to half of them, and he missed the weekend away. He tells the story, when I invited him to come on team, he said, how desperate must Ron be for team that he would invite somebody like me? He would admit he was a terrible Alpha guest. But I saw in him a lot more if I could draw him to myself. He said yes. And as a team member, he was 100% on board. And it was while he was a team member that he opened up his heart even more to Jesus and the power of the Holy Spirit. And the rest is history, so to speak. But I continued to draw him to more and more leadership opportunities, including he ended up being the MC. And at one point I said to him, I brought him aside and I had the "I see in you" conversation. What do I mean by that? Well, I did see something special in Bill, but people don't always see it in themselves. And so I pulled him aside and said, Bill, it's been really fun getting to know you. I like you, I admire your character, and I see in you a capacity to raise up and equip all kinds of other people. You have that leadership ability. I see it in you. And I'm wondering if you would be willing to be my apprentice. I want to pour myself into you. I want to give you the heart I have for others, for the church, for Alpha, and I want you to understand all the whys behind what I do, because I believe that you can replace me someday. I think you can be a better leader than me, and I would love to help make that happen. And he said yes. I invited him into an apprenticing relationship, and he said yes. And then I began to continue to pour myself into Bill. Well, Bill has succeeded me in my role at St. Benedict Parish, and I anticipate he's going to do a far better job than I possibly could, and it excites me to no end. He's not the only apprentice I have or have had. I'm building into people who I believe have the capacity to do great things. And if you can do that too, if we can do that together with the people in the current leadership roles, then our leadership becomes scalable. We end up going from maintenance to mission with the volunteers, the army of exuberant volunteers that we require. And so that is how we implement an apprenticeship culture. Those are the benefits of having an apprenticeship culture. And now I expect you to action an apprenticeship culture.